has two examples to exactly that point. One is fishermen off the coast of India who were empowered by a project, an NGO project, with cell phones that told them simply the best price for their fish at that moment via text messaging. So literally by going to a port that was 5 minutes away than the one they planned, the market stabilized and benefited them because they were able to access the best price at that moment, because otherwise they were being ripped off by going to the same port they do every day. Also had an example from Africa where farmers similarly finding the best time to bring their product to market. So when do they farm and when do they bring the product in? If they were informed, you know, the price is X here and Y here, you may be better in the afternoon. Again, just simply having access to a $1 phone, what in the United States would be a $1 phone, and a couple of text messages a day, they were empowered, and the market was able to right itself in a way that benefits really all players, but primarily in the case those making the sales. Just a point, and I love being on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn for this reason. I actually popped into Twitter and texted a friend of mine who confirmed for me I was off a little bit on my numbers. Average consumer in the U.S., 550 messages per month. Average teenager, 3,339. So get those unlimited plans.
I feel very inadequate here that I'm not texting and email and messaging as we're up here. But
you're allowed if you're correcting yourself.
One to take that technology that we just talked about to you personally, one of my interesting little apps is called Gas Buddy, and basically with a GPS phone, anywhere that you happen to be, you can pull it up and it'll tell you where the closest gas station with the best price on gas is at that moment in time. So that's the kind of thing that applied to any business. If you're not using technology as a leader, you're getting killed as a follower.
Yeah, the flip side of that story is, you know, your consumers are going to, and your consumers, your customers, your partners, they're going to find tools for themselves. And if you're not paying attention to how you're connecting with them, an aspiring developer somewhere in a garage in the middle of nowhere is going to come up with an app that is going to make it pretty transparent that your pricing isn't working, that you're not connecting with your consumers in the right way, may have misinformation about your product or your company out there. So if you need the stick to balance the carrot, that's definitely it.
Let me ask a question of you with regards to our agenda. A lot of companies come here, and you see at the top of our one-pager, they're here for exposure. And if you ask them, what did you have in mind, you know, people will say, well, you know, we'd like people to know more about us and our product or what we're doing, or we'd like to have more shareholders in our company. We'd like to be better known. We feel like we finally have our business model proven and it's scalable, and now we're ready to roll it out, and we want to move forward. Can you guys talk about the technology and applications on exposure and widening your horizon and bringing in more potential shareholders and making people knowledgeable about your product for a small developing, let's call it nano-cap company that's just getting off the ground?
Why don't you discuss for a second the how Coke uses technology to spread at scale information. I'll talk tactically about how a small company might do that in its own space.
Sure. Well, Coca-Cola has a very active presence on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. I think we just crested 28 million followers on Facebook. And we have empowered our brands, large and small, around the world to engage through a consolidated platform, so that it makes it easier for a marketer. When people look at the Coca-Cola company, they look at the size, they look at the numbers around brand influence, and they think, okay, well, anybody who's a marketer at Coca-Cola has this massive budget, and that may not always be the case. But we decided that Facebook was important because our consumers were there. As a matter of fact, our original Facebook page, and the founders were here for the 125th anniversary celebration we had in Centennial Park a couple weeks ago, so they're still engaged in helping run the site, was created by a couple of fans. A couple of true Coca-Cola fans created the site, so we had to work with them to, to move it into a sort of more consolidated approach and allow all our brands to take advantage. And we're there because our consumers are there, and your consumers, your customers, your partners are there. The good news is that it's largely free. These tools are available to any business. There's a way to set up a Facebook page that has a URL just for your business and the name of your business if it's not already taken. Go to LinkedIn and be a part of these groups that were mentioned. First, be a part of this group. I know that Michael runs a couple of the LinkedIn groups, right? Yeah. Make sure that you're connected that way and you're connecting with your peers. That's a fantastic way to exchange information, but also learn about what else is available on LinkedIn, because that's sort of a professional social network, if you will. Twitter, make sure you have your Twitter presence. And finally, advertising on the main search engines like Google is incredibly friendly to very targeted per click. Yeah, if you will. You only pay for those users who click through to your site, and that is really not as hard to manage as you'd think. It's fairly easy to figure that out, or better yet, hire somebody who's an expert for a couple of hours to develop your search engine optimization, which means how are you being found for free, and your advertising planning online, which means how are you being found for pay. Which is a way to put yourself above your competitors in sort of what they call sponsored or premium links. And you go to Google and you search, and there's somebody in that sort of magenta box or on the right-hand side. Those are all paid venues for you to advertise to your consumers. And that can be done in a very small budget. So I'd say, if it's free, spend some time figuring out how to leverage the free, and then spend some time on an expert to help you navigate the 4 pay services, but all of it can be done very cheaply now.
So I'm reading between the lines, but when you said, you mentioned Facebook and Coke, you said something about setting up Facebook correctly. So where can we get information that tells us how not to do it or how to do it correctly? I'm assuming there's a best practices way that you had in mind.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, first and foremost, if you have a competitor or a brand or a company, you're a fan of what they do on Facebook, be a fan and follow them. Actually, watch what they do. Coca-Cola has a pretty open exchange with our fans on our site. I mean, during the 125th celebration, as I mentioned during the concert, we streamed it online and we had a Twitter feed. And even I was looking at some of the things in the Twitter feed and thinking, wow, that's some pretty open stuff. And the fact of the matter is, this is a open environment. So there are best practices that you should apply, but remember, it's social. When they say social, it means social. Follow brands that have been successful and other companies you think that have been successful, and see what they do. And as I said, there you can find either boutique agencies or consultants through services like LinkedIn, which is fantastic because they usually have references posted that you can reach out to also through LinkedIn to corroborate their experience, and engage them for a 10-hour assignment. There's really no other best way to learn how to do it than to learn from somebody who does it repeatedly for a lot of different companies, has a proven track record of doing it. You engage them for a month or two, and then you could be off and running your own social presence.